So I've been a vegetarian for like a year and a half now, and a vegan for like maybe a month and a half, and it's going pretty well so far. But often people ask me why I am a vegetarian, and I find it difficult to, in the moment, succinctly summarize why that is, just because I don't want to come off as preachy or like be a downer, especially when we're trying to enjoy a nice meal together. So this is my long-form response. Hopefully I do it justice. Ooh. The earth is dying and I'm pretty terrified. I wanna do better, so I'll have to learn. So the big picture of why I'm a vegetarian is, in this day and age where like population is exploding and the way we get meat is very different from when we used to, we're part of this industrial livestock system. It's just not sustainable or efficient anymore. In order to raise animals to eat for meat or for other reasons, you need to use land and resources to do that, but then use a whole score of other land and resources to grow food for those animals, where really we could just be skipping the middleman being the animal, and using resources to grow plants for ourselves and feed the world. But more specifically, okay, say you're going to raise an animal for meat. You need to get a piece of land, maybe cut down trees. You need to have water that the animal can drink. You need to use water to clean the facility, to clean the animal, whatever. The animals burp and fart, they poop, and most importantly, they eat using a whole score of other resources. I just want to shout out this book really quickly. I read it and really liked it. It's called Eat for the Planet by Neil Zacharias and Jean Stone. It helped me conceptualize these ideas. And I will now share with you some facts and figures that helped me, at least, understand the magnitude of this problem globally. 45% of the land surface is occupied by the global industrial livestock system. 45% of all of the Earth's land. 1 acre of land can produce 250 pounds of beef, which sounds like a lot, but the same acre of land can produce 30,000 pounds of carrots, for example. 23% of the planet's fresh water is devoted to livestock. The same amount of water that could produce 1 pound of meat could produce 7 pounds of tofu or 12 pounds of avocado. 40% of our world's grain is fed to livestock. For every 100 calories of grain fed to livestock, we get only 3 calories of beef. The global industrial livestock system is responsible for 14.5% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. 1 calorie of animal protein produces 10 times as much greenhouse gases as 1 calorie of plant protein. Yikes on bikes. In my research for this video, I looked at research that specifically looked at different diets and how they compared in terms of environmental footprints. The overwhelming trend in the research I looked at was that as you go from omnivorous to semi-vegetarian to pescatarian to vegetarian to vegan, the environmental footprint tended to decrease. And this was for a bunch of different environmental factors. They looked at greenhouse gas emissions, ammonia emissions, land use, water use, energy use, nitrogen footprint, stuff like that. There were a couple of interesting findings. For instance, one study in Germany saw that water use went up for vegetarian and vegan diets, and this was because those people consumed a lot more nuts and seeds than other diets, and those were being imported from water-scarce countries. 2 studies that I looked at tried to optimize nutritional value and kind of balance that with environmental footprint. One of those studies found that a pescatarian diet was best, but only if the seafood came from capture fisheries and not aquaculture, which is interesting. The other study found that if you upped your consumption of fruit and veg and decreased your consumption of meat and dairy, the environmental footprint was comparable to a vegan diet. This was in terms of land use and greenhouse gas reduction. None of the studies specifically looked at food waste and the environmental toll that takes, which is interesting because one study hypothesized that fruit and veg food waste would be a lot higher than meat food waste, so that would be something interesting to look at in the future. To conclude, So it seems to me like there are a lot of ways you can reduce your environmental footprint with your diet. The way that's just like easiest for me is to be vegan. All of the studies suggested that decreasing your consumption of meat and dairy helps a lot, even if you don't go completely vegan or vegetarian. But if you have the time to pick and choose at things, there are other ways you can do it for sure. You can also look at things obviously like eating locally grown food, seasonally available food, reducing your food waste, looking at how your food gets here, but again, that involves a lot of research, so for me it's just easier to be vegan, but to each his own. I also want to acknowledge that there are like so many different factors that make it difficult for people to have these kinds of diets, cultural factors, geographical factors, etc. I think that is all I have to say. This was a very quick summary. Hopefully you feel a little bit more knowledgeable. I certainly do. I find this subject really, really interesting, and so I might do more videos about it in the future. But for now, that's it, I guess. So if you appreciated the research I put into this video, please press like and press subscribe. It would help me out. And make sure you correct me in the comments below if you think something's out of whack or something. I would love to hear about it. Yeah, okay. Goodbye.